I have never been more informed than I have over the last 8.5 months since going live every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. This is Live in Fort Collins, where we talk to you guys about what's happening, what things to do, city council, and developments under review. And tonight is no different, but you can kind of see a little bit of a changing landscape in Fort Collins. A lot of activity, a lot of young people driving around. Target parking lots are packed. Back to school shopping supplies absolutely is a must. For me, it's my first year with my youngest going to be going into kindergarten, and excited about that. Nervous, a little teary-eyed when I went and did a little test with her the other day. Exciting to kind of go through that process, the bus stops and different things like that. My son will be going into preschool, but kids are back at CSU, and but still life goes on. Right? City council meetings every Tuesday. Interesting things that were discussed this week were two ballots initiatives that will go on to this November's ballot for us to vote on in regards to tax increases. Additionally, they spoke at length. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys this week, actually, because the city of Fort Collins usually does a really good job about putting up their reruns the morning after, right around 10 a.m. But they didn't get it up until about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it was a 5-hour city council. So I watched a little bit of it, but otherwise I did pull my information this week, not directly from city council, but from the Coloradoan that gave a recap. But it did discuss the U+2 rule. If you are unfamiliar with that, that's 3 unrelated individuals or a family plus 1 more individual. And there's some kind of more in-depth analysis or understanding about that, but it's kind of a contentious topic around, you have a 4-bedroom house, but really only 3 people can live there. So does that impact affordability? And that was discussed at length last night at Lifestyle City Council meeting. But let's get rocking and rolling. There is a quick trip that is going to be developed on I-25 and Prospect Road. That is going to be one of the most interesting developments here in the near future. There's going to be 500 plus units, housing units. There's going to be commercial, industrial, gas stations, hotels, entertainment, in that area that right now is really just greenfields essentially greenfields on each corner of that interchange or off ramp. So Prospect and I-25 is going to be developed very significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. I've never understood the big, to do about gas stations, but I do like Maverick off of Mulberry. It's a big gas station. They're building another one off of Carpenter Road and I-25. They've got a Buc-ee's being built that I guess is got some amazing barbecue and is essentially a grocery store in a convenience store. But Quick Trip is going to make their first show in Northern Colorado off Prospect and I-25. Something definitely interesting. If you didn't watch last week's live, I spoke at somewhat of length about the water discussion that's happening right now within the city of Fort Collins utility. And if you're not paying attention to that, you should, especially if you are considering buying a new house in the next 3 to 5 years, because it could be significantly higher than it is today, because they're going to be increasing essentially the cost of an acre foot, a share of water that the city of Fort Collins is going to be allowing developers to buy from them at a relatively significant increase. But Larimer County and CSU, they're going to do a water education series. And in a dry, arid climate like we have here in Northern Colorado, it's definitely something to stay involved with and understand as much as you can. Honestly, the uses and legality behind water is so far beyond me that there is reasons why there's water courts, water attorneys, experts in water. But if you want to have a general understanding, there's going to be an education series that Larimer County and CSU is going to be putting on starting August 21st, and then it'll go September 20th, October 18th, November 16th, each discussing a separate topic within about water uses, flows, streams, all that good stuff. There was an article in Colorado that talked about Larimer County lifts the hiring freeze. It was just a short-term hiring freeze because there's 2 ballot initiatives that would have capped the property tax revenue that the state could collect at 3%. Additionally, Proposition HH is potentially going to be on the ballot to be voted on that would reduce the assessed valuation of properties. which will immediately impact the tax revenue that these counties would collect. Now, if these do not go through, Larimer County suggests that, yes, they're going to decrease the mills temporarily, but cover their budget because they're going to get a 40% increase in tax revenue. I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be discussed with property taxes here in the near future. We haven't necessarily seen the full impact or ramifications of the 30 to 40% increases in property values that will essentially, if nothing is done, immediately increase property taxes by the 30 to 40% because the Gallagher Amendment was removed a couple of years ago, which would have reduced the tax assessment rate to have a proportionate share versus commercial. So that no longer exists, and it's definitely going to impact the cost of living in Colorado. And but there's going to be some things that are going to pass and voters and lots of different initiatives because it hasn't hit our pocketbook yet. And when it's real, I think people are going to start shouting to the heavens, high heavens, and making some changes. But currently, Larimer County lifted that hiring freeze because they were concerned that there was going to be a couple of bills that passed that were going to impact the tax revenue that they collected, which wouldn't allow them to hire those positions that they didn't deem absolutely necessary. So it tells you that, hey, the property tax revenue that they're going to be generating is probably going to increase at a decent clip. All right, things that are happening. Farmer's Almanac is coming out. They're saying basically that we're going to kind of be status quo for a winter this year. And it's interesting. They say they're 80% accurate. Last year, what they used it was going to be a hibernation zone, glacial, snow-filled winter. It was definitely glacial. There was 3 different times where the weather dropped below zero for an extended period of time during the daytimes. We would call those polar vortexes. And generally speaking, that would only happen once every 3 years. And it happened 3 times in 1 year. It was absolutely glacial. But they're suggesting that this year, winter will be kind of winter as usual. So nothing too crazy. You could expect sun on Christmas Day. You could maybe have snow on September 8th, our earliest of record. But nothing too crazy per the Farmer's Almanac. Fort Collins, Colorado came out with another guide to the best patios in Fort Collins. A lot of them I've been on, and some of them I haven't. Avogadro's Numbers, good one. CBM Pots, great. Just don't get hit by a golf ball, possibly my golf ball, because it is a public golf course. So there could be a fair amount of hacks out there. But if you can avoid those, it's a great patio. Illegal Pete's, Colorado Room, Cafe Vino. Lots of good patios to explore. I would say I've been on about 75% of the patios that they suggested, but plenty of patios to go out and have a good look. If you haven't watched our Fort Collins Fellas podcast, we discuss, kind of at the end of each episode, we talk to our guest about what's their favorite patio to go have a beer on. And Odell is by far and away the most favorite patio in Fort Collins from those folks. Garden Affair returns to the gardens on Spring Creek August 25th. So that's not this Saturday, next Saturday. Not unfortunately, I'm taking my team up to Breckenridge. We're doing a team retreat. We do one every year. Super excited. But it's $95 per person, 21 years and older. There's going to be some music, food, wine, beer. Definitely something to do on a very unique date night, if you will, that you can do not this Saturday, but next Saturday. $95 per person. You do have to register. Spots are limited for the 12-acre gardens. Tour de Fat coming up August 26th. So again, I'm going to be missing that this year as well, as we will be up in Breckenridge. But essentially 9:30 to 7 p.m. The parade goes from City Park along Mountain Avenue and ends at New Belgium. Lots and lots of drunk people on bikes that day, so steer clear of downtown if you can. But there's great paths and bikeways that people don't necessarily have to be on streets. Definitely a very fun and unique thing, Fort Collins specific. So make sure to explore that if you have not. Again, me and my team will be up in Breckenridge, so we won't be able to do that. But beer, fun, bikes. It's going to be probably hot and sunny. Wear your sunscreen, wear a hat. Protect yourself. Drink lots of water before and after. Alrighty, so as I discussed, City Council, what will be on the ballot this November is going to be 2 things that you, if you are in Fort Collins or a citizen of Fort Collins, will be able to vote on. a sales tax increase of 0.5 cent that will generate about $22 million a year. It says it's going to cost $62 per resident annually and $156 per household annually. But this is going to be separated for 50% of it. It's going to go to parks and maintenance, 25% to reduce greenhouse gases, and 25% to expand the city transit system. These are all great things, and I'm not saying that we don't need them. We don't need to address them. I actually put out a poll on my YouTube channel. If you haven't answered that, go answer that. I'm asking, what would you do if you had a shortfall of your maintenance budget needed specifically for parks and recreation that has a pretty significant shortfall? And Fort Collins is known for its open space, green space, parks, that they've got some older buildings. Epic is going to need an update. Mulberry Pool, the park equipment itself needing updates. And so they have a pretty significant annual shortfall that they're trying to address by these tax increases. Now, I put on there, different options, ideas. I'm not saying that I'm, for any of them. I can say that after our property tax increases, City of Fort Collins doesn't necessarily need any more additional cost of living increases. So get out there, vote this November, whether you want to see these taxes increase or, get out there and talk to your city council members about seeing something else, like whether that's cutting the budget or reducing the size of a certain, park that doesn't get used as much, or decreasing the overhead, or, let's put a parking fee in there so that if you're going to use the park, a nominal parking fee. So I don't know. I threw out some different ideas, but I don't think right now is the right time to increase taxes on a potentially already burdened Fort Collins citizen. So we will see how that goes. It's going to be on the ballot. So that's the first one, a 50 cent sales tax increase. The other one that will be on the ballot that was actually voted on unanimously from City Council 7-0, whereas the 3 mil property tax increase was split 4-3, which all of those funds will go to address affordable housing. And essentially, it's if you own this is per the Colorado one, a $400,000 house, it's going to increase your property taxes by $86 a year. $107 if you own a $500,000 house, $161, $750, $215 a year on a $1 million house, and $376 on $432,000 commercial property. Commercial property always pays about 3 times property taxes versus residential, or historically. So they always do take the burden of property taxes. So that being said, that was voted on 4-3. It's going to be on this November's ballot that you can vote on, whether you want to see that tax implemented or not, or if you have different ideas, reach out to your city council members. Talk to them about different ideas and about how we can address things. And, we have the South Side pool and aquatic center that's going to be built in the near future that, maybe it's like, hey, let's push that off a couple of years, not say that we don't do it, and divert some of those funds to make up the shortfall while people get adjusted to these new property taxes or the cost of living, utility costs that are increasing. So I think that there's lots of great, amazing things about Fort Collins. And one of them is, let's get involved. Why we're doing this show on a weekly basis is to inform you, to hopefully understand how, you can have a little bit better of a say, more of a say. And there's a couple of things that I really appreciate. I love Jenny Arndt. She's our mayor. I think she does a great job. I think she has a good mind on her, business mind. I think she is forward thinking. I think she has a respect. She would respectfully have a good conversation with everybody. Not to be political. I just think she's a good person. And she has great, ideas. She's like, hey, listen, she was one of the ones that voted for putting the property tax increase of 3 mils onto the ballot. And she said, I'm not for the property tax increase. What I'm for is to give it to the people and let them decide. And it got me thinking. I was really trying to understand. I was like, all right, mayors, city council members, when, information and having your voice heard, even let's just say 20 years ago, before the internet, before social media, all that good stuff, it would have been harder to have each individual person's vote heard. But it made me think about when you'd go into school at CSU and they'd have the clickers, I can't remember the damn names of them, but you'd have a question. Mostly it was just for attendance, but they would ask you a question, you'd answer it, and you'd get it right or wrong, whatever. But it would just mark that you're there. And I think it's important because of how in-depth some of these conversations are that we do have elected officials making these big decisions. And, hopefully that they're kind of informing the community, because some of these decisions are just so in-depth that maybe a person who isn't totally ingrained in the information and pros, cons, and deep dive shouldn't necessarily be voting on a daily basis. So I get city council members still definitely have a purpose, but maybe that there are situations like this that it's like, hey, it's a tax increase. Let's just give it to the people. Let's inform them of what the tax increases are for, but also the impacts to them and what it might mean, and let them vote. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it of why she voted for it, saying, hey, I'm not for the tax increase. I'm for letting the people decide and vote from there. So I thought that was definitely a good insight. We're at 15 minutes and 58 seconds. I try to keep this in between 12 and 15 minutes. Developments under review, Vineyard Church off Riverside, going to do some conversion to condos as far as office spaces. Small 14 single family development over off Greenleaf. That's on the north side across kind of from Discount Tire on the north side of town. And then no neighborhood meetings. So that's kind of it. I will hang around for questions if anyone has them. I always appreciate you guys joining. I'm looking over here right now because I am recording it, or I'm live on Instagram for the first time during this live. I don't like it because I can see myself doing weird movements on the left side of me, but I don't see any questions at the moment. I appreciate you all joining me on a Wednesday night. Leave comments, questions. Let me know if you like what I'm doing on a Wednesday night. If you're like, Patrick, you're wasting your breath. But honestly, I'm probably going to keep doing it just because I love learning all this information. I'm as knowledgeable as I've ever been. I'm as knowledgeable as I've ever been. Sorry, Instagram. As I've ever been about Fort Collins by paying attention to city council, by reading Colorado, and by understanding the events that are happening. And I hope that I'm compacting this in a packaged time frame that you can digest and then make knowledgeable, informed decisions and explore the best of what Northern Colorado can offer. Thanks for joining. Have a great night. Bye.